Greetings and salutations, you beautiful souls. Welcome to League Unlock, where we have delayed it long enough. We've taken our time. It is now about that moment to preview the quarterfinal matchups here at the World Championship, and there are a lot of dream matchups. Pretty much all 8 teams you want to see there. It's about as stacked as you could get. Really, the only way it could have gotten more stacked is if Fnatic ended up being in Group B, and then you would have probably been left with RNG in the top 8 alongside everybody else, and Splyce as the odd man out. But who knows, maybe Splyce will surprise us. But we're not previewing that series first. We are talking about GRIFFIN versus INVICTUS Gaming. And if you jump back to 2018, remember, IG lost their tiebreaker to Fnatic. They finished as a 2nd seed. They drew one of the overall favorites for the entire tournament in KT Rolster, had an incredible best of 5, went to 5 games that they won, and then obviously they won the World Championship. Well, GRIFFIN are definitely not as big favorites for the overall tournament as KT was, but it is still another 1st seed from Korea that has a moderate amount of hype, especially after how they performed in that group stage, especially those 2 games against G2. The numbers definitely go in the favor of GRIFFIN, though that team kill-death ratio is disgusting. Nobody else was even close to having over 2 per game, and a lot of that is obviously because, you know, they had 42 kills to 6 against G2 in their last 2 matches, so that is going to inflate those numbers quite a bit. But we know the play styles of both these squads are very different. IG at times have some very sloppy macro for a world-class team, and they just want to be fighting all over the map, which again is pretty great for this meta that we are in. But GRIFFIN is very much the opposite, where they're going to be playing slower, not necessarily going to be tons of kills. That's why a lot of the time their KDAs are so ridiculously high, because they take the play that is almost assured for them. Although we did see them taking more risks when they were at their absolute peak in the regular seasons in spring and summer. They would take fights where they know that they could just mechanically outplay and get an advantage. And IG does the same thing when it comes to some of these fights. So that is going to be a very interesting thing to keep track of, whether or not these, I will say, ballsy plays result in a lot of people dying in the wrong way. Either Rookie going a little bit too ham, the Shy going a little bit too ham. We've seen both of them have their weaknesses in those regards, but we know what the peak levels that they can reach are, and that is the very best in their roles. And for somebody, some of these GRIFFIN members, they're looking to prove themselves against that absolute world-class form. I don't think IG is close. Maybe they're getting closer for sure, but they are not at the level that we saw in 2018. They still have to ramp up a little while to reach that point, which means GRIFFIN absolutely has a chance in this series. I would actually peg GRIFFIN as the slight favorites in this matchup, but it is very close, especially considering historically what the 1-2 matchups are. Usually it's huge favorites for that top seed, and I actually think this is the worst possible 2 seed that GRIFFIN could be matching up against, even more than G2, because they just beat them twice in a row, and that is because of the top lane matchup in this one. We've talked about it a little bit earlier in this show, that this is the biggest mismatch in terms of head-to-head lanes that you're going to see in all the quarterfinals. Yes, even more than Faker versus Humanoid. I think the Shy and Sword, what we saw the Shy do in the group stage, there's a reason we had him number 1 on those top 20 player rankings after the group stage. He was completely annihilating any matchup in the top lane, and if Sword decides to throw, or if his team decides to throw up an Ornn in the top lane, then he is going to get absolutely space jammed by the Shy up there, regardless of what the picks are. If he's going Jace into Ornn, or even Vlad, Gangplank, we know that Sword likes the Jace. That's one of his favorite and most comfortable picks. The Shy absolutely knows how to go up against it and is more than capable of picking that away from him. It remains to be seen how much jungle attention is going to be given to the top side of the map, because I honestly don't think it's going to be worth Tarzan's time unless he's there to be counter-ganking in a 2v2 scenario. You might be abandoning Sword up there. And we have seen teams do that to some success. You look back to Team Liquid against IG at the MSI semifinals. The Shy was way ahead and destroying a lot of those games that Team Liquid came away with a win in. And that was just ignoring him or doing their best to ignore him in some of those side lanes. That might be a strategy here for GRIFFIN, and who knows, I would be shocked if we didn't see Doran at least in one of these games, at least to just try and avoid tilt for Sword in that top lane. So we'll see if 2 top laners are enough to take down the Shy, and if we'll have a Duke sighting. When it comes to the jungle matchup in this one, obviously, I think the advantage is going the way of GRIFFIN. Tarzan was the best jungler for me in that group stage, pretty consistent throughout, except for that one game against G2, but the other 6, he was absolutely world class. And Ning, good old Ning. That's World Championship MVP, Finals MVP Ning, and the Ning that got benched in the summer split for a rookie. He's obviously a huge coin flip. He had some good performances in the group stage. He actually split time right down the middle with Lian. They both played 3 games, so much like I expect Doran to maybe get a game, I know that Lian and Ning will be splitting. So really, it's both of them matching up against Tarzan here, and maybe kind of those outside eyes and that outside opinion from one of these guys watching from the behind the scenes will be enough to kind of get a grasp on what Tarzan's jungling ideas and strengths are. But I still think Tarzan, even with 2 junglers going up against him, that's the biggest advantage for GRIFFIN in this matchup. The mid lane is going to be exciting. It's going to be the best lane to keep your eye on. It might be the closest one in this series. Chovy versus Rookie. Obviously, Chovy is all about that lane phase. You see, he's not even involved with his team a lot of the time. He's sitting there on his split push, opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to that kill participation for these 2 guys. But the laning numbers are there for both of them. They want to snowball a lead themselves or in that 2v2 with Tarzan. Rookie played a lot of Orianna. Chovy played a lot of Camille in the group stage. So very different champion picks that they've had. Obviously, they can both play assassins. They can both play control mages. So the pick ban is going to be very interesting with what these guys are flexing around their rosters. To give a slight advantage, I feel like you have to still go Rookie just because he's proven himself on the international stage. Based on group stage performances, Chovy was actually a little better in my opinion, but Rookie, come on. He's a world finalist, and he's been here time and time before. I only expect him to ramp up as this tournament goes on. For the bottom lane, you know there's going to be some very spicy picks because Viper and Jackie Love have both shown that they are able to pick some of these mages or non-traditional marksmen in the bottom lane. Although I will say, Jackie Love, his Syndra was not something I really need to see again. It was super underwhelming against Damwon. He got completely obliterated by Nuclear's Kai'Sa in that matchup. Obviously, the Garen and Yuumi is something that IG is absolutely going to have to ban against GRIFFIN and Viper. But both of these bottom lanes are kind of not fully featured in what they're trying to do. It's definitely the 2v2s with the solo laners that are going to be emphasized in this matchup. But you know that Jackie Love and Viper are both more than capable of being a hyper carry or huge threat when it comes to these late game fights, and whether it's Kai'Sa or Xayah, because that's apparently the only 280 carries that actually get picked at this year's World Championship. Both of them very capable on those picks. I might be given a slight advantage just to Viper because he looked better in that group stage. Jackie Love, I was actually a little bit disappointed with his performance. The supports, we talked about Lehens on the top 20 after group stage. He was the best performing support. Baolan was not, to put it nicely. He's had his ups and downs throughout the entire split as well. Obviously, he got benched early, and it was very early in the summer split, the first couple of weeks before he came back. And IG started looking better with him in the lineup. But Lehens, man, he really stepped up, and there's obviously some picks that he absolutely excels on. Again, the Yuumi should be perma-banned against him. His Nautilus was actually looking a lot better, and I can't believe how heavily contested that support Nautilus has been. One of the biggest surprise in picks and bans for me has been the reliance and emphasis on that pick, but I think Lehends has better control around the map, better vision, coordination with his jungler in Tarzan. So bot lane, slight edge to GRIFFIN. That being said, I think all the advantages GRIFFIN has, the Shy is still going to be too much in that top lane. I think IG does it again and takes down a top seed, but I fully expect this one to go the distance and 5 full games. Coming up after the break, we take a look at the EU versus the LPL yet again, and can Fnatic do what they did to RNG and eliminate a hopeful